Hi everybody, welcome back. I've missed you guys. Sorry for the graininess of this video. I don't know what's going on here, but my camera has decided to not do the right thing. But I'm going to go ahead and read this little bit and then change it out, maybe use my phone for the next bit. I don't know what's going on, but it looks horrible. So sorry. Okay, so when we left off, Harry had just found out that he was a wizard. Big Hagrid banging on the door, knocked down the door, fed him some food, brought him a birthday cake, gave him his letter for Hogwarts, and boom. He told Harry to go back to sleep because they had a lot to do the next day. That's where we had left off. So we're on chapter 5, Diagon Alley. Now this is an extraordinarily long chapter. It's one of the longer chapters in the book, so we might even have to break this up into 3 sections. Be forewarned. Harry woke early the next morning. Although he could tell it was daylight, he kept his eyes shut tight. It was a dream, he told himself firmly. I dreamed a giant named Hagrid came to tell me that I was going to a school for wizards. When I open my eyes, I'll be at home in my cupboard. There was suddenly a loud tapping noise. And there's Aunt Petunia tapping on the door, Harry thought. His heart was sinking. But he still didn't open his eyes. It had been such a good dream. Tap, tap, tap. All right, Harry mumbled. I'm getting up. He sat up and Hagrid's heavy coat fell off of him. The hut was full of sunlight. The storm was over. Hagrid himself was asleep on the collapsed sofa, and there was an owl rapping its claw on the window with a newspaper in its beak. Harry scrambled to his feet, so happy he felt as though a large balloon was swelling inside of him. He went straight to the window and jerked it open. The owl swooped in and dropped the newspaper on top of Hagrid, who didn't wake up. The owl then fluttered onto the floor and began to attack Hagrid's coat. Don't do that. Harry tried to wave the owl out of the way, but it snapped its beak fiercely at him and carried on savaging the coat. Hagrid! Harry said loudly. There's an owl! Pay him, Hagrid grunted into the sofa. What? He wants paying for delivering the paper. Look in the pockets. Hagrid's coat seemed to be made of nothing but pockets. Bunches of keys, slug pellets, balls of string, peppermint humbugs, tea bags. Finally, Harry pulled out a handful of strange-looking coins. Give him 5 nuts, said Hagrid sleepily. Nuts? The little bronze ones. Harry counted out 5 little bronze ones, and the owl held his leg out so that Harry could put the money into a small leather pouch that was tied to it. Then he flew off through the open window. Hagrid yawned loudly, sat up, and stretched. Best be off, Harry. Lots to do today. I gotta get up to London and buy all your stuff for school. Harry was turning over the wizard coins and looking at them. He had just thought of something that made him feel as though the happy balloon inside of him had just gotten a puncture. Hagrid? Said Hagrid, who was pulling on his huge boots. I haven't got any money. You heard Uncle Vernon last night. He won't pay for me to go and learn magic. Don't worry about that, said Hagrid, standing up and scratching his beard. Did you think your parents didn't leave you anything? But if their house was destroyed, they didn't keep their gold in the house, boy. Nah, first stop for us is Gringotts, the Wizard's Bank. Have a sausage. They're not bad cold, and I wouldn't say no to a bit of your birthday cake either. Wizards have banks? Just the one, Gringotts. It's run by goblins. Harry dropped a bit of the sausage he was holding. Goblins? Yeah, so you better not try to rob it. I'll tell you that. Never mess with goblins, Harry. Gringotts is the safest place in the world for anything that you want to keep safe, except for maybe Hogwarts. As a matter of fact, I gotta visit Gringotts anyway for Dumbledore. Hogwarts business. Hagrid drew himself up proudly. He usually gets me to do important stuff for him. Fetching you, getting things from Gringotts. He knows he can trust me, see? Got everything? Well, come on then. Harry followed Hagrid out onto the rock. The sky was quite clear now, and the sea gleamed in the sunlight. The boat Uncle Vernon hired was still there, with a lot of water in the bottom after the storm. How'd you get here? Harry asked, looking around for another boat. How might he have gotten there? I wonder. Let's see. flu, said Hagrid. Flu, said Harry. Yeah, but we'll go back in this. Not supposed to use magic now that I've got you. They settled down in the boat, Harry still staring at Hagrid, trying to imagine him flying. Seems a shame to now, though, said Hagrid, giving Harry another sideways look. If I was to, speed things up a bit, would you mind not mentioning it at Hogwarts? Of course not, said Harry, eager to see some more magic. Hagrid pulled out the pink umbrella again, tapped it twice on the side of the boat, and they sped off toward the land. Why would you have to be mad to try and rob Gringotts? Harry asked. Spells, enchantments, said Hagrid, unfolding his newspaper as he spoke. They say there's dragons guarding the high security vaults, and you've got to find your way. Gringotts is hundreds of miles under London, see, deep under the ground. You'd die of hunger trying to get out, even if you did manage to get your hands on some. Harry sat and thought about this while Hagrid read his newspaper, The Daily Prophet. Harry had learned from Uncle Vernon that people liked to be left alone when they did this, but it was very difficult. He'd never had so many questions in his whole life. Ministry of Magic messing things up as usual, Hagrid muttered, turning the page. There's a Ministry of Magic? Harry asked before he could stop himself. Of course, said Hagrid. They wanted Dumbledore for minister, of course, but he'd never leave Hogwarts, so old Cornelius Fudge got the job. Bungler, if there ever was one. So he pelts Dumbledore with owls every morning asking for advice. But what does a Ministry of Magic do? Well, their main job is to keep it from muggles, that there's still witches and wizards all up in the country. Why? Why? Blimey, Harry, everybody be wanting magic solutions for all of their problems. Nah, we're best left alone. At this moment, the boat bumped gently into the harbor wall. Hagrid folded up the newspaper, and they clambered up the stone steps into the street. I like that sentence. They didn't just stop when they got to the landing. The boat bumped gently. I like that. We have some adverbs there. Gently. How did it bump? It bumped gently. And then they clambered up the stone steps onto the street. So she didn't say they climbed or they walked up the steps to the street. She said they clambered up the stone steps into the street. So we've got some good vocabulary here. But that's why she has made $1 bazillion, because she uses her words very well. Remember, big words, big brains. Okay, so they're up in the street. Passers-by stared a lot at Hagrid as they walked through the little town to the station. Harry couldn't blame them. Not only was Hagrid twice as tall as everyone else, but he kept pointing at perfectly ordinary things like parking meters and saying loudly, "See that, Harry? Things these muggles dream up." Hagrid, said Harry, panting a bit as he ran to keep up. Did you say there are dragons at Gringotts? Well, so they say, said Hagrid. Crikey, I'd like a dragon. You'd like one? Wanted one ever since I was a kid. Here we go. They had reached the station. There was a train to London in 5 minutes' time. Hagrid, who didn't understand muggle money, as he called it, gave the bills to Harry so that he could buy their tickets. People stared more than ever on the train. Hagrid took up 2 seats and sat knitting what looked like a canary yellow circus tent. Still got your letter, Harry? He asked as he counted stitches. Harry took the parchment envelope out of his pocket. Good, said Hagrid. There's a list of everything you need. Harry unfolded the second piece of paper he hadn't even noticed the night before and read, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Uniform. First-year students will require, number 1, 3 sets of plain work robes, black. 2, 1 plain pointed hat, black, for day wear. 3, 1 pair of protective gloves, dragon hide or similar. 4, 1 winter cloak, black, silver fastenings. Please note that all pupils' clothes should carry name tags. Now, boys and girls, they have made a list, like an outline. We do this in class sometimes whenever we're thinking about the main idea and then details we want to make sure we discuss. See? Remember how we usually use 3, but they have 4, and then they have not a complete sentence. See, there's no punctuation marks at the end because it's just a list of things. we've got to make sure we can check this off. 1, 2, 3, 4. When somebody gives you a checklist, you need to be able to check off every single thing to say that you've done everything you were supposed to do. So he's got to make sure he has those 4 articles of clothing. Course books. School books. See, even when you go to magic school, you have to have school books, textbooks, and books to read. All students should have a copy of each of the following. The Standard Book of Spells, Grade 1, by Miranda Goshank. Now, I'm not going to say these names right. I'm going to go ahead and tell you now. A History of Magic by Bathilda Bagshot. Magical Theory by Aldebert Waffling. Maybe I might, I don't know. A Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration by Emmerich Switch. Transfiguration, he's switching. I got that there. 1,000 Magical Herbs and Fungi by Felinda Spore. That name goes too. Magical Drafts and Potions by Arsenius Jigger. That's a good one. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander. Dark Forces, A Guide to Self-Protection by Quentin Trimble. Interesting books. Other equipment. 1 wand. 1 cauldron pewter, standard size 2. 1 set glass or crystal vials. 1 telescope. 1 set of brass scales. Students may also bring an owl or a cat or a toad. See how the ors right there are in capital letters? That means that we need to make sure that we emphasize those words because they're important. 1 or the other or the other. You can't have 2, you can't have 3, you can have 1. Pet. Parents are reminded that first years are not allowed their own broomsticks, and that is all in capital letters. No broomstick for you. You're too little. Can we buy all this in London? Harry wondered aloud. If you know where to go, said Hagrid. That's where we're going to stop, because it's a perfect stopping spot. You know how sometimes I tell you guys that there's natural places to stop when we read, and usually it's a bit bigger than a paragraph. You know, paragraphs only indent to go to the next line. Well, sometimes there's a chunk of space, and I can tell right here that there's a chunk of space. So they're going to get all this stuff in London. They're still on the train when we leave, but when we pick up on the next reading, we're going to start with them getting off the train and going around in London to find these things that Harry needs. I might just go ahead and read that next little bit and try it with my phone to see if I can make all this go away, because it's kind of aggravating me that I can't get a clear video on any of the laptops. I have a school laptop and my laptop. This one is my laptop, and it should be better, but it's not. It's killing me. All right, boys and girls, that is the first part of Chapter 5, A Diagon Alley. Harry and Hagrid have left the little house on the rock. Hagrid used some magic, even though he's not supposed to get up to the shore from the little island in the middle. And Harry keeps asking him these questions because Harry doesn't know anything about magic or the magical world. And Hagrid just assumes that he knows it all because that's the world he lives in. And everybody's staring at Hagrid because he's, as Harry said earlier, too big to be allowed. He seems like he's just so big. And he was this good mental movie here. This big guy that took up 2 whole seats, because not because he's fat, just because he's big. He's really tall. And he's knitting. Nobody knows what it is. Harry said it looked like it was so big it could have been a circus tent, but it was a bright yellow. So think about he's knitting something like a big blanket or a big sweater with bright yellow yarn. This great big guy. How odd would that be? I'd totally stop and stare too. Okay. I'm ready for my experiment. I'm going to switch it up here and read the second part, but you'll probably get that part tomorrow. Adios, amigos.